Thank you for coming to this event and being supporters of the TIDE conference. I'd like to give a big shout out to Rachel, Dan, Barbara, and the Avixa team for organizing. I feel like all the presentations to now have really set the bar high. So my name is Danielle.
And I'm Austin.
I'm on the brand team at Uber.
And I'm on the AV engineering team at Uber.
Okay, so today our presentation will speak to some of the ways that our teams work to impact the user experience for the three user groups that use our technology, and that is riders, drivers, and our employees. So our presentation will look something like this today: mobility at scale, human dimensions, and in the seams. So to get things started, I'd like to just provide a little bit of background on the company. So when people think of Uber, they often associate it with the digital app. But the Uber experience is everything that happens from the moment you open the app to the moment you get to your destination. In fact, I think this extends way beyond that to how we experience the city itself. For example, every day we provide millions of rides to people, and we do it in an affordable way. We provide access without discrimination. It doesn't matter where you're going or what you look like. A Harvard study has shown that access to reliable transportation is the single biggest factor as to whether someone can escape poverty. And we are tackling one of the most grave issues of our time in terms of environmental impact and quality of life, and that is individual car use. So for many tech companies, the digital experience is the product, but Uber's experience involves the movement of people and things in the physical world. So our experience is not only digital, it is ambient, and it is increasingly physical. So what do I mean by ambient? Well, consider that 8 years ago it was almost impossible to imagine that you could push a button on your phone and a car would show up to take you anywhere that you wanted to go. Today, in even the most sprawling cities, a ride is maybe 5 minutes away. So how did we get here? Well, Uber was the perfect product market fit. So in this visualization, I just want to show the staggering rate of growth that the company has experienced in the past 8 years. So from the first ride in 2010 to 8 billion rides at the beginning of January 18. So you can just see our expansion globally. And for each of those dots, I mean, that's a physical location for Uber. Today, we average about 92 million trips a week. So Uber is the biggest physical digital company in the world. I'm not sure how many people think of it like that. But with that massive growth means that many things get overlooked. For example, if you do a Google search for our logo right now, you'll end up with something like this. Our recent audit by our brand team, we uncovered over 18,000 permutations. So our logo is one thing, but then you layer on human culture and geography. And, you know, that's just another order of magnitude of lessons that we've learned. So, you know, for instance, you know, in Dubai, our signature color black, it's punishing for our delivery drivers during the day, and it's a safety issue at night. And then in Jakarta, you know, we had to change our brand color specifically for Jakarta because the colors conflicted with one of the local football teams. So as a delivery driver in Jakarta, if you were in the wrong neighborhood, you could be subject to insults, you know, violence, all kinds of abuse. And then in Mexico City, this is actually a very huge market for us, but we have no visible presence whatsoever. So while taxis and public transportation are affordable options, they're often associated with local crime and corruption. So rideshare operators never advertise for fear of reprisals. So moving forward, we want to be thoughtful in how we address these issues because they're real human challenges for us. And when you think about it, we are a business that is comprised of 3 million small businesses. And these are all operated by our driver partners. So while most of us have experienced being a rider, not many of us have experienced the other side of the equation, and that's being a driver. You know, drivers are real people, and time spent on our platform is simply one part of their lives. So, we realize that we need to be better at recognizing how our business affects people's lives all over the world. Our ability to relate to and understand diverse populations, cultures, and individuals is more than simply an ethical responsibility. It's a business imperative. So last year, we embarked on 180 days of change. This is where we implemented over 40 improvements to the driver app, and that included tipping as well as 24-hour support. And but one of the ways that we see ourselves improving the driver experience is through our physical touch points. So Uber has over 400 physical locations all over the world. We call these green light hubs. So these are spaces where you would go to be onboarded as a driver or receive one-on-one support. And because of that massive growth stage that we experienced, these spaces have traditionally been very transactional. So part of our efforts to improve our relationship with drivers has been to listen to their feedback and build an experience around their needs. So working with Fahrenheit 212 and local projects, we embarked on a design exercise to reimagine these spaces. And we came up with the idea of a driver's clubhouse that was built on this vision of creating a space that is welcoming, social, and personal for our drivers. So these are just some early concept renderings that we had working with those two teams that explain sort of the user experience that we had envisioned. For instance, at the entry point, there's a clear sight line into the space. As a visitor walking in, there would be a central landmark, so you know exactly what to do and how to check in. And once you reach that sort of landmark, you'd be welcomed by a concierge who would offer you, refreshments. We emphasize warmth and hospitality through the use of natural wood elements within the space. And on either side of the space, we have privacy pods, which contribute to a sense of calm and relaxation. As a visitor who maybe wants to take a break from driving, there would be comfortable seating with charging stations and magazines to read, in addition to restrooms. And if you have children accompanying you, we would have a dedicated child area. And training areas provide opportunities for our local teams to program these spaces for things like seminars, driver appreciation days, all types of community programming. So while those were early aspirational ideas that we had, here's one example of the final execution in Seattle that we just completed last month. So as you can see, there's the clear sight line, the central landmark. Here we have the privacy pods, sort of the lounge seating with a feedback screen, the children's play area, and then the training rooms. So while there were many points along this journey where I was not sure we would pull through, I'm very proud of our internal teams for remaining true to the promise and sticking with the vision. Another way that we see ourselves improving the driver relationship is through storytelling. So every year we conduct hundreds of interviews with drivers all over the world, including photo shoots and video shoots. Here we are with a driver in Washington, D.C. called Horse. So I had the opportunity to do some field work back in the fall for a magazine that we are publishing. So it's just a fun experience to do this with them, since it's the first time many of them have ever experienced a photo shoot. And here's some mock-ups of the magazine that we were publishing, one in Seattle and one in Washington. And some examples of how we've localized the content. In Seattle, for example, we have a very large Ethiopian community. So part of the magazine is completely, it's translated into Ethiopian. For the Washington, D.C. issue, we have a feature on Gallaudet University, which is the university for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. But we bring these stories into our workplace because we want to convey, or we want to feature drivers and convey their stories in their own words. These installations working at a tech company that is very engineering focused, there's an obvious emphasis on computation and data. But bringing these stories into our workplace, it helps to remind us of the human dimension of our work. It also helps to build empathy within our own internal culture. So our workplace is an important part of the employee experience. And this is where I'd like to hand it over to Austin.
Awesome. Thank you, Danielle. Hey guys, like I was saying, I'm Austin, and I'm a systems engineer on the AV team at Uber. Today, first of all, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the employee experience and its relationship to technology. I've been at Uber for 3 years now, and my main focus is to engineer, design, and support our conference rooms and event spaces. I also get to work on specialty spaces, and this is where I get to work with Danielle and some of the really cool installations around the office. So I'm going to take a step back and describe to you what it was like when I first got to Uber a little over 3 years ago. That technology wasn't great. It's really just a room with a display in it. And we really needed to provide Uber with that platform they needed. Technology was cumbersome, mismatch of hardware and software. So we were growing fast, and with fast growth means lots of new employees, lots of new offices. We were building on average from 20 to 30 offices a month. We didn't have time to design, we just had time to deploy. So I just wanted to, this is a quick little video of our event production and what it looks like when you don't have processes and procedures set in place. Yeah, I'd say one of the most memorable moments I had when working the Global All Hands was when we were doing the brand refresh. And at the time, we didn't have a close relationship with them as we do now. And ultimately, this resulted in not getting the content up on the screen and over the call, holding up the Global All Hands for about 5 to 10 minutes.
There's like an echo. Hearns, are we good? Are we good, Hearns? Can you turn the audio off on that thing? That's so weird. Volume, please.
Back it up.
Volume. Sorry, guys, we got technical difficulties. Bear with us. This is funny echo. This is hilarious. Can you guys hear the echo?
It was pretty awkward. and so it was. And the reason I show you this is because it really takes knowing what you were doing wrong to provide a solution and a great solution for Uber to collaborate on. I mean, ultimately, we're a global company, and our teams are consistently collaborating all day long. So we begin our new design, and this is just a quick example of some of our new rooms and other spaces. We begin to meet with employees and figure out their wants and needs. We also met with the stakeholders of the spaces. This is where I got to team up with Danielle and the brand team and some folks from the facilities team. We also began to realize that the conference rooms were also a platform for us to communicate globally. Interestingly, the conference room screens started kind of transitioned with the company. They started out very tech-focused with how-to room instructions, then became a platform for our emerging cultural values. And today they focus primarily on the people who use our technology. So without going into too much detail of the actual technology in the conference room, understand that this was kind of a main focus for us. Less was more, and it really is. We kind of came out with several key wins here. We improved the quality across all audio and video components. We increased productivity. We streamlined remote support and maintenance, making my job a lot easier. We simplified the design, made it more cost-effective. Overall, this is what my team supports. Over 300 offices with our technology inside it. Over 1,700 rooms and specialty spaces. We're still learning and still growing. And currently, our team is working on our new headquarters in San Francisco. It's a really fun project that, again, I get to work with Danielle and really design the experience that will soon, Uber will soon house. Thank you.
Okay, so both of our teams are tasked with harmonizing what happens, at the intersection of the physical and the digital. One of those key problems is connecting riders and drivers. I think anyone who's used the service has probably experienced moments of uncertainty or anxiety, wondering if you're in the right location or if your driver was even en route. Hopefully it was not as drastic as this example. But here's the visualization of a missed pickup of a rider at San Francisco International Airport. So as you can see, the driver actually has to loop around twice, and this results in a poor user experience for everyone. So how do we solve this? Well, some ways are through signage. Just being able to demarc a physical space as a pickup and drop-off location. So the challenge here, though, is that we're a third-party entity, so it's very difficult for us to put these in the wild. Another way we have explored this is through hardware. This is a tool, it's a part of the app where the rider and driver can connect through a color system. So this has been very helpful in nighttime conditions. So our studies that we conducted on this tool showed that it did work. It reduced pickup location errors and contributed to improved completion rates. But another way that we see ourselves improving sort of the rider experience is through our physical touch points again and the built environment. So the rider journey is actually not only sitting in the backseat of a car. Once the rider is in the car, actually that's the easiest part. And that's where our driver partners play a key role. But it's the locations where the rider waits and departs from vehicles that are meaningful locations for us. Pre-ride touch points create and elevate expectations of quality and consistency, while post-ride touch points can enhance a good trip or offset a poor one. Here is an example of where we partnered with Westfield to create one of those rider lounges. So Westfield is one of the largest shopping centers owners in the world, and they are very user-centered. They focus really a lot on the user-centered design, as they see it as a key differentiator in a retail strategy. So they gave us sort of like 400 square feet at one of their locations at Century City Mall in Los Angeles. And it's important to note that this location is very hospitality-focused, given its location right beside Beverly Hills. But as you can see, the space is sort of adjacent to it's inside the parking structure, but is adjacent to the pickup location curbside that is outside. So here's just an example of what it looked like prior. And this is the finished example. So we worked with the Westfield design team to create this, and while it did not contain all the amenities that we had hoped, it was a really great opportunity for us to just learn and test and observe for future installations. So the good news is that we were able to recover our build-out costs in 2 months, and we actually doubled our monthly trips. And the big win for us was simply just getting our name onto Santa Monica Boulevard. So future spaces. So we embarked on we created a self-directed brief to better understand, using a human-centered design, to better understand how we might create physical experiences in the city that better address our riders' and drivers' needs and aspirations around mobility and transportation. So this process involved inspiration. So this is where we interviewed stakeholders across our company, but also, more importantly, stakeholders outside of the company, such as urban planners, architects, real estate developers, as well as our riders and drivers. Synthesis, and this is where we organized our findings and identified key themes and pulled out key insights. And then in the ideation phase, this is where our team brainstormed and came up with some concepts. I'll share a few of those with you here. The first theme was that door-to-door is dead. It's more like door to mid-block, subway, bicycle. The original promise of Uber to pick you up exactly where you are and take you exactly where you want to go is no longer the most convenient or cost-effective way to use our service. So in dense urban areas, people are using Uber as part of a multimodal network. And what's driving this is congestion and limited curb space. So some opportunities we explored were how might we make it easier for drivers and riders to find one another, and how might we design places to wait that are safe, purposeful, and efficient. So the following examples are just some ideas that we're throwing around. They are nowhere near prototyping stage, but one idea is an interactive beacon. I mean, these could be located in high pickup drop-off locations. They could be numbered for wayfinding. They could be equipped with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, even a credit card payment system for international visitors. And perhaps there's a way for us to sort of integrate with public transportation information so that we can actually offer helpful tips on other multimodal options. Might we explore underutilized or spaces that are typically not super inviting, such as construction zones? During events or festivals, maybe a mobile pickup zone is appropriate so that it can adapt to shifting traffic patterns, while at the same time providing a positive brand interaction. And safety is one of the top priorities across all areas of our business. So is there a way for us to explore latent infrastructure, such as the lobbies of Starbucks or restaurants, to provide a safe place for riders to wait while they, especially in nighttime? Theme number 2 is that we help brands deliver their customer experience. So our offerings exist within a bigger context. So our partners rely on us to get people to and from their business in a way that is safe, efficient, and complements their brand. So what we need to do is we need to find partners who really care about creating a great customer experience and work with them to do so holistically. So some opportunities we saw here were how might we create spaces, objects, and tools to help partners integrate Uber into their service experience, and how might we become an extension of our partners' experience in a way that is authentic to our brand. As the retail landscape evolves, perhaps there's a way for us to occupy spaces with high commercial vacancy. Having a retail presence on street frontage would allow us access to white space as well as driveways. And we could complement this sort of physical space with offerings on our Uber Eats platform. Conversely, it could offer grab-and-go options for people who are waiting to be picked up. There's possible brand activations that we can host at stadiums or sports events that tap into pop culture. Let's see. Pickup and delivery of food is a major pain point for our drivers. And at the same time, pickup and drop-offs in heavy traffic corridors are a pain point for cities. So perhaps there's a way for us to combine these into a parklet that has the convenience of a dedicated pickup drop-off with food lockers. And theme number 3 is that partnership is the new disruption. Our scale and ambition necessitates collaboration. So as we all know, Uber was built on disruption, but as we mature and expand our reach, we need to build and forge relationships to better serve our customers in the cities we operate in. Partnership is built on collaboration, and that means doing something together that we could not do on our own. So some opportunities here were how might we improve the airport experience, how might we become the food delivery partner of choice and improve access to our service, and how might we reduce the need for personal car ownership and contribute to existing transit options. So at airports, we are a critical function at airports, but airports lose a lot of money because they rely on parking fees. So perhaps there's a way for us to kind of set up more of a concierge-like service curbside where we lease space from the airport to offset those lost fees. For riders who are departing the airport, perhaps we have more of a waiting lounge. In-terminal presence, this could be more of a partnership, an information booth, where we highlight how the airport authority and Uber is working to impact transit on a regional scale. And for food, for restaurants or other food services who are like in malls or food halls who do not have access to frontage, there's probably physical interventions that we can develop to help with pickup, delivery, and dispatch. And then finally, we've become sort of a part of how cities operate, but we ourselves have not been, as good as a partner as we could have been. So perhaps there's a way to improve public transportation using our engineering expertise and access to data. For instance, 511.org is a helpful tool for people to access, but maybe we make it better to improve transit for everybody. So these are just some things that we wanted to share with you, things that maybe you don't associate with Uber. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.